Welcome to Buds and Blue Jays, your place for everything related to the Toronto Blue Jays. Here's your hosts Jesse Burrell and Riley McConnell. Now let's get on with the show.
Good evening, Blue Jays fans. Welcome to episode 137 of Buds and Blue Jays. It is Thursday, September 28th, and we are full squad on our episode today. I'm Jesse Burrell, joined by both Riley McConnell and Isaac Bass. And boy, this was a very big series that the Toronto Blue Jays just went through against the New York Yankees. Our playoff picture gets even clearer with one series left to go against who might be our first opponent in the Tampa Bay Rays. We will get into all the things coming out of this series, including Chris Bassitt being the man, getting to 200 innings pitched, so much more, including what is happening with Matt Chapman and Whit Merrifield. Do we have a Jordan Romano problem? And so much more storylines getting into the postseason. But first, gentlemen, how are we feeling about this Toronto Blue Jays team with one series left to go in the regular season?
I will first off say, guys, that this has been a roller coaster of a September. We were feeling very up, very down, and this series did not start off well for our boys in blue. We did avoid the sweep. Things are looking really good. The dominoes are kind of falling our way right now as far as the teams that are losing and struggling down this part of the year, which is, hey, it'll kill you, man. It'll absolutely kill you to lose games this late, being this tight in a wild card race. But honestly, like from 2 weeks ago, from a week and a half ago, I'm feeling a totally different person. And guys, like, I think I'm not going to jump the gun too much, but I am pretty damn set on our Blue Jays being in the postseason.
Isaac, how are you feeling about the Blue Jays right now?
As I was just saying before the episode, I think if we had lost today, there would be a very different vibe coming into this episode. But I mean, thank God at least we got one. Like you said, in the end, all that matters is the playoffs. Me being a massive Leaf fan, you realize more and more that regular season, as long as you get in, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. You know, and we're going in. Hopefully, we're getting a little bit more confidence. It's just and I'm sure we'll get to this. It's just our home, how we play at home offensively has just been. Maybe it's a good thing that we're going to have to go to the Trop or something like that. Right. Honestly, as weird as that is to say, maybe it's a good thing.
Yep, I'm going to get into that. I want to talk a little bit about some numbers and what we are looking forward here going into the last series. Right, the Blue Jays won today, which is good. The Texas Rangers and Seattle Mariners are currently playing right now. It is the bottom of the sixth. Currently, Texas is winning 2-1. If Texas holds on and wins this game, the Blue Jays playoff odds dip up to a 99.3%. So it is virtually impossible, knock on wood, for the Blue Jays not to make the playoffs, assuming Texas holds on. Even if Seattle does come back and win, the Blue Jays still have a 95% chance of making the playoffs. So I am going to go through the tune of this episode, assuming that we are making the playoffs. Now, that is a dangerous game to play. If there's one thing we know about this year's Toronto Blue Jays season, is that wild things can and will happen. But for the sake of that, let's assume we are in. So with that being said, two questions, I guess. Would you guys want to go to Trop to play Tampa Bay, and knowing our history at the Trop and how many times we see this team? Or would you rather Houston passes us or something like that and we end up having to go to Minnesota to play the Twins? Do you guys have a preference? What do you want to see this last series?
I think the idea is to win as many games as you can. I think the likelihood of what is going to happen is we're going to play 6 games in a row against the Tampa Bay Rays, and I think I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Pending that we play well in the series. I mean, we're going and we have a home series against the Tampa Bay Rays, and we're not seeing the best version of those Rays that we would have saw early on in the year. And I think, honestly, like, this Tampa Bay team had an absolute hold on the entire major league, and they kind of let that slip away due to injuries and poor play kind of down the stretch. And I think we kind of go pedal to the metal and absolutely demoralize them in this 3-game set at home, and then go into their ballpark and keep the pressure up and keep scoring those runs, get those quality starts, get those good quality relief innings. and walk away wildcard champions. And I think that there's a really good chance that this Blue Jays club can do that. But we have to, well, I say that we have to get those good pitching innings in, and we have to get the offense, because I mean, Tampa is sneaky.
Of the year.
Tampa is sneaky good, man. I still fear the Rays, but I think for the most part, I would, I'm more sided on if we end up getting swept by the Rays and still make the postseason, then yeah, bring on Minnesota if that's statistically possible for what happens. But hey, I am comfortable as of right now wanting to face Tampa Bay.
Okay, Isaac, what about you? What do you want to see from this team in the last series of the year?
Yeah, I think it's just the offense. Like, I'm confident in our pitching going forward. Our two starting pitchers on games 1 and 2 very likely have just played. So they're done for the regular season. So even if like these guys like Kikuchi in this next series are meh, like I'm not going to be too concerned because our guys are already set. So either way, I'm down for either team. I think it's bad juju, I guess, to like kind of cheer to play one or the other. The other cool thing about going down to Tampa in the playoffs is like all the snowbirds from Canada are just starting to get down there, so we might outnumber their fans. Whereas in Minnesota, they're going to be crazy in Minnesota for a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in a long time. So who knows how much that affects how we play based on like the fan engagement. But I couldn't care either way. Whoever we play, I am down for.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and if we're going to play Tampa, now might be the time to play them. Like, they are not full strength. They are without Wander Franco, Jose Siri, Brandon Lau, Luke Raley, and their pitching staff has been torn to shreds. Yes, they still have Tyler Glasnow, and yes, they still have a good bullpen, but this might be the most beatable Tampa has ever been. And if the Blue Jays are going to go on a run to the World Series, wouldn't it be sweet if we can beat our Tampa Bay Rays as one of the teams, or the first of the teams, in order to do so? Gentlemen, I want to talk more about, we'll get back to the series that just was and whether or not we have concerns, but I want to talk more about what individual things do you want to see in this upcoming series against Tampa Bay? Isaac, you talked about the pitching here. You just don't want to see Bassitt or Gausman. You want to see, I guess, Kikuchi and Hyun-Jin Ryu kind of do their thing. I'm talking more about, I don't know if I want to give the Tampa Bay Rays that many looks at a ton of our relievers. Like, what I'm saying is, I don't know if I want to throw a ton of Jordan Hicks this series, or I would say Jordan Romano, but I think you got to get him back out there because I don't want their hitters to get used to seeing our higher leverage pitchers if you can help it this series. So I'd think you're going to see a lot of Jay Jackson or throw Trevor Richards until his arm falls off and stuff like that this series. So that way, when the playoffs do come and the outs matter more, the hitters aren't used to seeing these guys.
I think it's important to obviously, mess with the timing of these hitters. The problem is with, some of our guys, not all of our guys, is that Tampa's a divisional team, and we've seen Tampa. And so let's take in consideration, yes, a guy like Jordan Romano, the Tampa Bay Rays have seen a lot of him over the past. Tim Meza as well. You exactly want to mix in some of these guys that are in lower leverage situations. Obviously, though, if there's a game on the line, you got to throw your best guy. If it's a tie ball game in the late innings, or it's very circumstantial. If we have the option, though, and I don't want to be too picky with this. Of course, we want to win ball games. I don't care how we do it, but at the end of the day, if we have a rested reliever and there's a game on the line, it's got to be him. It's not A, B, or C. It's option A and option A only. Whether that's Hicks or Romano, whoever we decide at the time, or who John Schneider decides at the time, because that's still very much pending. We'll get into that topic in this episode, absolutely. But it's the same thing as picking a team that you want to play against. You got to go with the best guy available, and the best guy that's going to win you that ball game if it's close. If we have the option, yeah, sure, throw Trevor Richards for 3 innings. But I mean, I don't know if that situation will happen.
Isaac, do you have a thought on that, or is there something different that you really want to see from the Toronto Blue Jays this last series of the regular season?
Well, I guess it's I was just trying to rack my brain to figure out what our pitching strategy exactly is going to be if they want to kind of follow what you said, Jesse, because who we would have scheduled to start would be Ryu Kikuchi and then Gosman. Obviously, we're not going to be starting Gosman in game three. It's going to depend on when we clinch. So game one, we could clinch, right? In which case, if you don't want to throw relievers, you have two guys, Kikuchi and Ryu, who basically go 5 innings, 6 at most. So you're going to have to throw a lot of relievers in there. And then game three, if we're already clinched, you're not playing Barrios because you could very well have to start game three. You're not playing Gosman. No other guys are going to line up for that. So you're going to have to bring in a guy maybe like Bowden Francis and do like a spot start, something like that. But you're not going to get that many innings out of him either. So are we going to bring up a guy to kind of fill in that spot and put Cam Eden down and then bring him back up? Or like, how do you foresee, assuming we clinch in the first 2 games, that game three going?
Yeah, I think assuming we have already clinched, we are going to see a lineup full of probably Cam Eden gets a start and Santiago Espinal's in the lineup. And it might be a simple bullpen day. Every single reliever gets 1 inning and so be it. Maybe a guy like Trevor Richards or something gets 2. Maybe we call up Zach Pop or something just to give him an inning or 2. I'm not sure. I doubt that one, but that's what I think it's going to be. But I think it'll be a good problem to have when we get there and clinch anyway. Speaking of clinching, guys, I've got some Blue Jays scenarios. The Blue Jays can clinch as early as Friday, and they can't be mathematically eliminated until Sunday on the last day. So it would be nice if the Blue Jays get a win, they get help around the league, and we can just clinch their spot on Friday, which I think would be very, very good. I also have some tiebreaker scenarios for you guys. Now, none of these are very likely to happen, but I want you to keep them in mind. And here they are. If there is a 4-way tie, if Seattle, Texas, Houston, and the Blue Jays are all tied with the same record, the Blue Jays, based on tiebreakers, are the ones that are eliminated. If Seattle wins the West, which is not looking very likely, and the Blue Jays, Astros, and Rangers all tie, Texas is out of the playoffs. If the Astros win the West and there's a 3-way tie with the other teams, the Blue Jays are out again. And if the Rangers win the West, which seems to be the way, and there is a tie between Seattle, us, and Houston, it is Houston that is out of the playoffs. So I don't think any of those are going to happen with the way the Blue Jays are playing, but just keep that stuff in mind in case this weekend gets absolutely crazy for the Blue Jays.
Those scenarios do sound absolutely bonkers. If it were to come down to it, guys, it's just win. Like it's those are simple words. The task at hand is a lot more difficult than that. But I mean, guys, there's 3 games left in the regular season. And you said we can clinch as early as Friday. And I looked at my phone and I thought Friday's a half hour away. On the clock. I mean, guys, like I'm getting goosebumps thinking of the scenarios in my head. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I mean, we're just in a really good spot right now. It feels good. And the mood, Bassie, you hit the nail on the head. If we lost this game tonight, it's a totally different vibe. And it is in the Blue Jays clubhouse, and it is on our little camaraderie meeting here. It's a totally different vibe.
All right, let's get into that series then and the reason we won today, gentlemen. And I want to give an official Buds and Blue Jays thumbs up, not just for this series, but for the course of the season for what Chris Bassitt has done. He went 7 2/3 innings pitched, 12 strikeouts against the Yankees today, giving him 200 innings pitched on the season and his 16th win. Ends up with a 3.80 ERA, which if you remember the way his season started was with a disaster in St. Louis. So to come this far for Chris Bassitt and is likely going to start game 2 of the series is going to be very good. Isaac, I want to turn it to you. Chris Bassitt, I'm assuming he's now our game 2 starter. I think you mentioned that earlier. Are you expecting a big postseason out of Chris Bassitt?
Yeah, I think so. And I also just want to point out, I saw something about, I was thinking this last episode too, is like we give Ross Atkins and management a lot of shit in Blue Jays Nation, but we chose Chris Bassitt over Ross Stripling, and he chose Kevin Gosman over Robbie Ray. Yeah. And how great have those two? We've had the best pitching, one of the best pitching in the entire league this year. So you got to give him some credit where it's due. What an amazing ad instead of going back to, someone that just had a flash in the pan, as you guys kind of said. So I just want to give a little congrats to our management group for once, because Blue Jays Nation are not very kind to them. Yeah, I think he's going to be absolutely amazing. He's an inning eater as well, which is great. He has very rare blowups. It's been like, I think 3 times this year. So, I mean, probabilities that it probably won't happen again, especially not against a Rays or Twins lineup, which are that explosive. If it was against a team like the Astros, I'd be maybe a little bit more concerned in the first round. But yeah, I have total faith in our first two guys, and Barrios, we'll see.
Riley, I know you want to throw some love to Chris Bassitt. Let's hear what you got.
Yeah. I had it at the start of the year. I love this. Of course, one of my guys started as White Sox came over to Oakland, didn't pitch a lot for them, had his best season last year with the New York Mets until this year. I didn't think it was possible. I thought getting Chris Bassitt was a great addition, but as Isaac said, an innings eater. And for me, the definition and terminology for innings eater, has like a 4 ERA. Like we're getting into the category of ace when you're talking, a sub 4 and 200 innings pitch in today's MLB. And we've had 4 very good pitchers this year. I will, also bring in our other guys to say that, Kikuchi and Barrios are pretty much comeback players of the year in a lot of cases. But for Chris Bassitt and his performance tonight against the New York Yankees, he absolutely shut the door on it. And that's a great way to close out the series. It's a great way to close out his season, and absolutely gotta be playoff starter. Game 2 that's I'm pretty sure that will be set in stone. He had a hell of a year. I mean, he's getting better each year. It statistically, if you look at his numbers, and I mean, I know they say, wins don't mean anything, but 16 wins at age 34 looks pretty good, or age 35, whatever he is. I mean, those are pretty good numbers in the year 2023.
First Blue Jays pitcher to 200 innings in a season since Marcus Stroman in 2017. And the first Blue Jays pitcher to go 200 innings with at least 180 strikeouts in a year since Roy Halladay in 2009. That is some elite company for Chris Bassitt here. Very nice. I also like the way he can move his pitches and really attack Rays hitters. I'm excited to see that. His last start against the Rays, 6 2/3, only 2 earned runs allowed. That is kind of the outline I would expect. Gentlemen, we got 2 big issues, though, especially that showed their way in this Yankees series. And I think we need to start with the most pressing one, boys, and that is the Blue Jays offense. We did just get shut out twice against the New York Yankees, a team that has really underperformed on the course of the year. Yes, one was against Garrett Cole, and yes, was against Michael King, who's been very good the past 5 weeks or so. But getting shut out twice in a row for a team that's about to go into the playoffs is concerning. And I want to know about you guys on a scale of 1 to 10. Give me your faith level on how you feel the Toronto Blue Jays offense can come alive in this postseason.
Are we going to dive more? We're going to dive more into this. So I'm just going to give you, I'm going to save my banter here, and I'm just going to say 6.
Okay. Isaac, you have a number?
Just to be different, that number sounds good, Riley. You said there. I'm gonna say a 5.
I don't know if I'm that optimistic about this team being able to hit better, because the pitching is just going to get better. We're not going to be facing Luke Weaver every single time out. The pitchers we see are going to be good. The relievers we see coming out of the pen are going to be even better. I am worried about this Blue Jays offense. I'm not certain we have enough thump or firepower to really go on a dramatic run. We might be able to win the wild card series, but I don't know if we have what it takes to make it to the ALCS or the World Series. But I would love to see something just spark or click and get this offense going. I guess, Riley, we'll start with you. A lot of players here have really kind of either disappointed or haven't done what they need to do or have struggled lately. I guess just get into it with any single of the Blue Jays offensive players. Who do you want to see either get a spark from, or what should we do to get this offense better?
I just want to generalize for right now. We lost the first game 2-0. Kevin Gausman had another hell of a start. I mean, it's not the best start of the year, but it's in his top 10 for this campaign. We had 3 guys cord hits, and we had 6 base runners get on via walk. We had 9 guys left on base. Mm-hmm. That is where the clutch factor comes in, and we could not drive in those runs. The Yankees only scored 2 runs. How they scored those 2 runs, we'll get into that. Michael Caine is not a guy that should have a shutout line, especially when he has the control issues. We did not take advantage of that. And then Game 2, what can you say? I mean, Garrett Cole pretty much just won the Cy Young Award. I mean, I hate to say it, but like, let's be realistic here. We got 2 hits. Good for Brandon Belt, for the only guy who didn't go 0 for in the lineup, and he got 2 hits against Garrett Cole. Barrios in that game. I mean, double-digit strikeouts. That was great, but he was throwing a beach ball in there as well. Yes, it seemed at times, and yeah. We walk away with a 6-0 loss. So the fact is, we got shut out by a good pitcher in the second game. In the first game, we had absolutely no clutch. Story of the season. Story of the last, really, any season I can remember. We've had no luck with runners in scoring positions. Because I feel like, Jesse and Isaac, anytime a pitcher gives up 6 walks, a pitching staff gives up 6 walks, that's a substantial number. You have to take advantage of a number like that. And there was multiple walks in an inning too. I mean, we just did not have the offense. And I think statistically, that's not going to happen, as much as you would think. But hey, for the Jays, it honestly can happen. And then, look at us. We're going to go 20 innings later, and Dalton Varsho decides to absolutely rope one for our first run in 20 innings or whatever it is, 2 games basically. And a player to click. I mean, that was my question. I just kind of wanted to rant about us not getting hits. Like, if a player's going to click right now, who better than a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Show us what you're made of, Vladdy. We're playing a team. We're going to play in the playoffs. We're playing at home, our last series of the year. If this is the sequel, if last one was the movie and now it's the sequel, well, wouldn't a good point in the movie for you to turn it around, essentially? I doubt you're going to get time for a plot twist. Vladdy actually hits 30 home runs this year. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, and it should have. But hey, if I want a player to click, I'm looking to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And hey, if I want a guy who's the best supporting actor, Bo Bichette. Sure. Bo Bichette every day, man.
Isaac, what do you want to see from this offense? Are you confident in these guys going to the playoffs, or what would you like to see?
I'm still starting a petition that we are calling him Guerrero Jr. instead of Vladdy from here on out until he proves otherwise. He doesn't deserve to have a nickname like Vladdy. He is going to be Guerrero from me, just like every other player gets their last name called out. So that's until he proves me wrong. That's going to be my name for Guerrero. Obviously, that's the pick. Yes. Right, like it has to be your big guys, or we're not going to win a series, let alone a world championship. So I'm going to go maybe a little bit off the board, and I'm going to say that Kirk needs to be big, especially because he's going to be starting every single game at catcher, and this guy needs to be a solid bat in the middle of the lineup. So I mean, it's going to have to be everybody. Like, Belt was the only guy through this whole series that did anything. And the guy is showing, this is a great reason we got him, showing his leadership qualities, saying the fans need to be louder. And he was the only one causing the fans to be loud the entire series. So he's my standout for this series. And I think he's going to continue it. The one thing that I was a little worried about, you saw him be slow on the fastball in game 1. And that was at the start of the season when he was coming back from an injury. That was what Belt's issue was for the first month that we all kind of wanted him off the team. Thank God that he wasn't. But I was very happy to see the next 2 games that he is right back to the Brennan Belt for the last few months and didn't have to go through that long process of getting back to it. So yeah, Kirk, Belt, and Guerrero. Obviously,
Kirk, I love the call at game 1. He actually had a couple ropes of a baseball. I think he had a line out where an infielder made a good play. And then he had one where the left fielder made a diving catch, which had a 930 expected batting average. Just didn't happen to go that way. And Kirk had 2 hits in the finale, including another hard hit ball. I do think if Kirk is doing the bat to ball skills and this bat is going, the Blue Jays are going to be in good spots. I guess the 2 main culprits on this team, guys, are Matt Chapman and Whit Merrifield, who both have a WRC plus around 50 since August 1st, which is awful for the team. Matt Chapman was moved down to 8th in the batting order in game 3 of this series. And Whit Merrifield, we've seen him only play every now and again lately. Are these, I guess, simple question, are these guys in your playoff lineup game 1?
Well, I mean, certainly Chapman is for me. And he's probably hitting 8th in that lineup, 7th or 8th in the lineup, depending on the matchup. I do not know if I have Whit Merrifield in that lineup, but he is certainly the first option off the bench. That's probably my take. And I have no qualms with Merrifield not getting the playing time, because he was the best player in baseball for about 12 days. Mm-hmm. And then, that was not short-lived. Hey, it was very helpful for our season. I'm keeping Chapman on third base, though, primarily for his defense. And I mean, a stroke of luck with maybe a timely double would be nice. Of course, very prone to the strikeouts. That's a whole other can of worms, though. But I'm still keeping him in on the sole fact that he is probably the best defensive third baseman in baseball.
Isaac, Merrifield, Chapman, are they cracking your lineup game 1?
I saw a nickname floating around on Twitter today, Matt Crapman. Oh. And and right now, I know that hurts your soul, Riley, over there, but right now that is what he's playing at. And honestly, I don't know what it is about. I feel like this might just be vibes, picking up on vibes. But at the start of the year, this guy was way more animated. He was like, you could see him in the dugout, like celebrating with people, and he just looks sour all of the time. Whenever he strikes out, and I actually liked seeing it from Guerrero today when he struck out and he slammed his bat and broke his bat on the ground. I was like, finally, this dude is showing that he really cares. I like that. I would like to see a little bit more out of maybe I'm not getting the whole picture, but he seems like he's off in every way. Even a couple of his throws recently have been like bounced balls.
Yeah, he bounced one in game 1.
Yeah, something seems a little off there. But if you have to have him as like a Kevin Kiermaier, where typically Kiermaier's had a good offensive season by his standards, but typically he's in your 9 hole so that he can play top tier defense. Chapman can be in the 8th hole because he plays top tier defense. I don't think you take him out. Merrifield, I think you're right. Unless this guy somehow catches a heater, and maybe you play him to see if it can happen in this series. But other than that, I still think David Schneider, and Jesse, I want to know your opinion on not playing David Schneider a single at bat this, but what's your thoughts first?
David Schneider should have been in the series. We talked about it a lot last episode, how I want to see this guy get at bats because he could come in off the bench and try to run into a home run. But I agree with you on the Chapman thing. Even his home run he hit today, which was a wall scraper down the line, barely got out. But
Ridiculous.
It got out. Even when he got into the dugout and the Blue Jays were doing like their little fist celebration, they did seem almost hesitant. And even Matt Chapman didn't seem like he was really thrilled about hitting the home run either. So I think you might be right. There might be something going on with Matt Chapman there. The thing is, though, we know what he is capable of. If we could ever unlock that April Matt Chapman, there is something there. He still hits the ball incredibly hard. He does it all year. It's getting so tough to see these pop-ups and to see these misses on pitches right down the middle of the plate. Like, he's going to be a real big Blue Jays X factor, and we'll get into that in the next series. And in terms of Whit Merrifield, Kevin Biggio's your second baseman because you're not taking Belt or Vladdy or Guerrero out of the lineup, and Biggio's got to play, right? So unfortunately, that means Whit Merrifield is off the bench, and I think the Blue Jays kind of go from there. Any other thoughts on Dalton Varsho heating up, guys, or some of the offensive players we haven't mentioned about? Kevin Kiermaier hasn't really hit in quite a while. We've seen just kind of some hit and miss from Bo Bichette. Like, any other offensive players you wanted to bring up or you want to see a little more from this series?
I mean, you mentioned Alejandro Kirk, Isaac, and all I could think was a great series would be to have an under on 2.5 ground into double plays when, it's important timing in the ball game. All joking aside, with Dalton Varsho, it's so weird, man, because he had another piss missile today. Mm-hmm. The guy has a ton of power. I don't know if there was speculation. I was listening to Ben Wagner saying, something about the ballpark and why the ball's not flying out with the new dimensions and things like that. Like, who the heck knows? But Varsho gets a hold of one that's great. There's two. In game 3, we have Matt Chapman and Varsho batting 8 and 9, which, okay, fair enough. You look at how they've hit this year, and there's so many holes in both their swings. But at any given moment, these guys can hit 410 feet onto the pole side, no doubter. As far as Kiermaier goes, again, we're talking about an elite defender at his position. You got more tools in the outfield, but our 3 guys that we got to roll with for the most part, and 90% of the time moving forward, is Varsho, Springer, and Kevin Kiermaier. Say what you will about, George Springer. I think he's had a tremendous year. I can't be the only one that thinks that. Exceeding my expectations 100%. But, I think our roster is pretty set. And, yeah, at this point, Witt's an option to use. He's a tool. It would be nice to get Davis Schneider into one of these ball games so he doesn't go ice cold going into the postseason, because we forget that he was the best player in MLB history to start his career.
And if he gets hot again like that, he's going to carry this team all through the postseason. Do not
ice this guy. No chance. Get him some at-bats in this series. Like, he cannot. I was actually, you know what? And now you get me a little fired up. You should have had him in one of these games in the series. I didn't even think about it.
Getting shut out, especially after getting shut out game 1
twice. Not what like you get shut out in game 1. Okay, you can look at it different ways. Maybe you protect him from Garrett Cole, but getting shut out twice and not having him in the 3rd game, you got to switch up the recipe there, Chef Schneider. Referring to John Schneider. Let's cook with Davis Schneider and see what maybe he got. Let's not let him go ice cold into this postseason, because I think we know what he could do on the ball field. It's a no-brainer. I think he should maybe I think he could start 2 games possibly. If we clinch, maybe Bo Bichette sits a game and Santiago Espinal goes into short just to protect a guy. I don't know how you want to manage this, but I know for certain that I want to see Davis Schneider get some at-bats so he doesn't go into the playoffs ice cold.
Me too. Isaac, did you have a quick thought on the rest of the offense there, or did you want to touch on our closer and Jordan Romano?
I think for the offense, it's just been an underperforming team as a whole for the entire year, especially power-wise. Jesse, you made a tweet. I forget if it was your personal account, your Buds and Blue Jays account, and reiterating what we talked about last podcast, where you were saying that what wins in the playoff is home runs, which is why a guy like David Schneider should be in here. And even on his 0-30, he was hammering balls, which is something that a lot of the guys, even the big guys in our lineup, can't really say this year. Maybe there's something to the fact that we let him go, quote unquote, ice cold by benching him for a week after he started hot and going a little cold. And then he came back and was once again Babe Ruth for a couple of weeks. And maybe that's just his cycle, is a couple of weeks. And if we bring him back just in time for the playoffs and he goes back to being super red hot, who knows? But let's touch on Jordan Romano. I guess do it. Yeah, I guess for me, it's hard to say unless he's still have that finger bothering him, right? We don't know, in which case, once again, he should not be on the baseball field. If he is at all injured, I don't know why, but I don't necessarily have concerns about Jordan Romano going forward, but I think you have to question, can Jordan Hicks challenge him for the closer spot if the matchup I'm messing up the word here. Dictates for it. Exactly. Depending on if guys struggle with balls at 100 miles per hour, maybe Hicks is their closer for a game. I don't think it should be necessarily set in stone right now that Romano is going to come in and close every single time going forward.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I will say the home run he gave up was a wall scraper. It barely got over that wall, but it still counts. And at the end of the day, it's another earned run that Jordan Romano gave up in a non-save situation. Look, In a perfect world, I think you get Jordan Romano into this series coming up this weekend against Tampa. You let him get a good inning and kind of figure it out. But if he struggles again in this series in the weekend, I don't know if you can just throw Jordan Romano in the ninth in a playoff game, especially if it's a 1-run lead in the Trop. Like, I don't know. I'm nervous. And I really do think that this is our biggest X factor going into the playoffs with what to do with Jordan Romano.
The only person who can really challenge Romano is Jordan Hicks. He's the only guy comparatively. Same with the setup spot. If you're to move, if you're battling for a closer and you just include Romano and Hicks, then you look at, Yimi Garcia and Eric Swanson for the 8th inning kind of thing. If there's four good right-handers right there. Those names, we always say on paper, but I'm going to say it again. On paper, those first 4 names in your bullpen, those sound fantastic. Jordan Romano has had a pretty crappy track record like over this past month. He has given up too many earned runs. He's given up too many base runners. And it was one of those things when the Yankees let off that inning with a hit, I thought I said this before the show. This was the 3rd or 4th time this year that we've given up a walk, given up a hit. And I thought, like, oh man, we're in trouble. And then lo and behold, 2-run home run. Jordan Romano's on the hook for a loss. And that's how the series starts. When easily, in a perfect world, he gets us to the bottom half and we score a run. We didn't end up scoring a run, doesn't matter. But I mean, we expect more from Romano. And if he is battling an injury, then why is he pitching? You have to then hand the reins over to Hicks, and then from there, then you can decide your order of who handles what leverage and who goes in which matchup. Because if he's good to go and he just gives up another stinker, then it's a demotion. If it's a health matter, then he's not in the ball game at this point, because we can't afford these late inning, and not even late. Like late inning for me is the 7th inning. Like we're in the top of the 9th inning in a tie ball game in the second last series of the season, and we're pitching a guy who has struggled, A, and B, dealing with a possible injury. That just doesn't add up for me. We had more options to use. And you give him his sample size in this series against Tampa. Let's see how that goes. I personally think it's going to go fine. If it doesn't, we're going to have to do some research, and it's going to look like it's going to be Jordan Hicks as the playoff closer.
Wow,
I mean, just to touch on it too, because I was just thinking in my head, like, can you guys remember the last game when Romano came in and didn't allow at least base runners? Like he's done some closes. And then I was looking at his stats for the last 7 games, and the guy's thrown 8.1 innings with 9 hits and 5 walks with a whip of 1.68. It's like, that's not a closer I want. Like that's not even a reliever that I want to be playing right now. His ERA is 5.4. And so it's just like, if this guy has any injury at all, he is not your closer, because that's not just like 1 or 2 games. That's over 7 of his last games. So that's something that I would definitely keep an eye on. And I mean, we have such a good bullpen that like, it's not last year, if Jordan Romano wasn't like the only guy that I really trust in our bullpen, it would be a big deal. Now there's a bunch of guys that I trust. So if he's at all injured, it's not going to sink us if Jordan Romano isn't our closer going into the playoffs.
Wow, that would be big. I don't know if John Schneider has the balls to take Jordan Romano out of the closer. Well, he doesn't. He absolutely doesn't.
No.
And if we lose a game in the wild card series because he didn't pull Jordan Romano, oh man, it's going to go crazy. But he's had 1 clean appearance in his last 9 appearances, has Jordan Romano, where he's literally gone 3 up, 3 down. So it's yikes. He's going to be one of the biggest people to watch for in this series this weekend. I'd love to see him get out there and get on a run. Gentlemen, is there anything else you want to look for? Any other thing you want to touch on in this series? We talked about Brandon Belt. Any of the other pitchers we saw, like about Gosman's start or about Barrios' start? Anything else you think might have an effect going down to this last series?
I'm just going to be cliche. Pedal to the metal. We start early. We get our foot on their throats, and we don't let up. We need this. This is not a time to take a day off. We need all 26 guys on deck, 28 guys, sorry. And we need to secure a playoff berth as soon as possible. I think that's bottom line.
Yeah. Let's clinch tonight. Let's clinch today.
Let's clinch in 2 minutes. We'll clinch today, Friday.
Perfect.
Because I've been staring at my phone for whatever reason, because that's just who I am. Because I'm looking at the numbers and stuff. I can't get game 1 and 2 out of my head. I won't lie to you. That's just frustrating in that way. But you feel better after today, and really, Brandon Belt coming through with that 3-run home run. I mean, that feels good. I know that felt good for him. That's a huge, momentum
he certainly doesn't
shift
show
in the
it.
J season.
That guy, nothing phases that guy.
No.
He has a
That's
face no matter what.
Big moment, though. That's a huge momentum shift. I know we're already leading in that ball game, but we're doubling a lead.
Yeah, insurance
with our pitcher having one of his best games, if not his best start of the season. I mean, that's a hell of a moment for Brandon Belt to have, especially when he said he wants noise. Well, he got it.
Isaac, was there anything else in this series that caught your attention, base running or anything like that, or are we all systems go going into the next series?
We're all systems go. Let's go get a series win. Let's show Tampa Bay that they don't scare us, that we want to play them. Let's not go in leaving them any doubt, any locker room stuff that they can use, and just go and play the best that you can. Schneider, give your guys some chances to prove that they deserve to be on game 1 of this playoff lineup. Give everyone an opportunity. Put Davis Schneider in for a couple of games and have everybody basically say, look, guys, we haven't been good enough. This is the time to go out and prove it, get on a hot streak, go into the playoffs hot, and let's go beat the fuck out of the Tampa Bay Rays for the next 3 games. And then you said 6 games. Let's beat them in the next 5 games, because we're going to have a wild card sweep. Jordan Romano is going to pitch awesome. Guerrero is going to turn back into Vladdy, and this team is going to win the World Series. Let's just say it.
All right,
I love the hope.
Clip the last 50 seconds of that one, Jesse. Holy Moses, man! I put that that's right up there with great moments are made from great opportunity. That's what you got here tonight, boys. Like, holy jumpins. Isaac Bass, ladies and gentlemen, a true Blue Jays fan.
Hey, we are nothing but optimistic on this show if you've been listening to us for a long time, and I'm sure that'll hold up. That'll do it for episode here today, guys. I do want to do a little bit of programming note. So our next episode is going to be after the Tampa Bay Rays series. We're going to do our official Blue Jays season preview. We're going to tell you who we're up against, what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, who the X factors are, and we'll probably give out some more bold predictions like we just gave out here. And then our tentative plan is to do an episode after each and every single game of these playoffs. It might be out as soon as the game ends. It might take a little while, but we are going to do live instant reactions. So please make sure you follow us on all the social media channels so you can see it. If you have any questions, we're going to be tweeting things out from our Buds and Blue Jays account. We can even read some of your tweets on our show, any concerns or anything you might have. So please make sure you give them a follow and interact with us, because we are going to be going for it big all postseason. With that being said, postseason tickets are still available. If you're confident that they can win this thing and go through a run in the postseason, get your tickets, because as Noah Riley and I saw last year, postseason baseball at the Dome can be great, can also be treacherous. So,
man,
make sure you're there.
Greatest collapse in a single game in MLB history, I think, is probably, when you look at it, that we won't talk about that. That's how we ended last season. Wow. Yeah. Don't bring me back to that. That's some PTSD stuff for a Jays fan right there, especially you, who was absolutely made into a meme for about 2 weeks.
My coworkers still don't let me live this down to this day. But anyways, that's it for episode. We will see you guys on Sunday night, recapping the Rays series and getting into a playoff preview. Boys, let's go Blue Jays. Let's have a big weekend, and we'll see you when we clinch.
Thanks, guys.
Hell yeah. Peace out.